For this short talk, I assume that you are at least a little bit familiar with moving WordPress projects from one domain or host to another, or from your local development environment to a web server. If you don't understand everything, no problem, just ask afterwards, or have a look into the tools I'm presenting tonight. And my goal for tonight is to show you one of many options, and we are hearing of another option later tonight. In this talk, I'm talking about plugin from the plugin repository, which is a freemium solution, and it's called WP Migrate DB. It's from the company Delicious Brains, and I can really recommend it. Let's have a look at the agenda. I want to talk about why to use a migration tool at all, the features of the WP Migrate DB, and we'll try to see a short migration demo. And in the end, I will give you some tips for troubleshooting. Why use a migration tool at all? Many of you may ask themselves, why can't I copy database and files manually? And for small projects, it's obviously a solution that can work, but especially on bigger projects, it can a very long time to move files by FTP, especially if you don't have SSH access and are unable to unzip files on the server. And for the database, it's especially complicated because of the serialized data that WordPress uses in many cases. And it's just too troublesome to do it by hand and replace the strings in serialized data with new strings, which is something you absolutely want to do to change your domain and the root path of your project and so on. Next question is why to use a plugin for it. There are, I think, three main reasons. One of them is you don't want to use terminal solutions like WP CLI because simply you don't like terminals, or you are not a skilled programmer and are fond of pushing buttons and don't have to think about it. The plugin itself has a lot of different features, and as always with premium plugins, many of them are only available in the paid version. There's a very big difference between the free and the pro version, because in the free version, you'll see some screenshots here. You don't have the add-ons to move media files, to connect to the CLI, to move plugin and theme files, and you can't use it for multi-size. Furthermore, you only can export your migration database, which means the plugin replaces all the strings you want to replace, and you download the file and then you upload it again using PHP MyAdmin, for example, and import it into the database manually. And of course, you have to move all the files manually, which is not what we want. Therefore, it's much better to use the pro version. Then you have all these features and it's really, really easy to use. Let's try to have a look at it with a migration demo. I stop my screen share and switch it to another screen. Okay. Let me explain the setup. The source page is one of our company's web pages, a very small one for only one product, and we want to move it to a development server, which I set up with a subdomain. And I prepared both websites with the installation of the plugin and the add-ons we need. I'll show you the add-ons I activated. It's the media files add-ons to move all the files from the media library to the new server, and the theme and plugin files add-on. The next thing we want to do is to allow a migration between the two sites. which we do by checking the permission to pull data from this install on the source side and the permission to push data to it on the receiving end. The next step is to simply copy the connection info to the clipboard and then start the migration. I tried it first, of course, so that I'm sure it works. But now for you, I start a fresh migration. I simply open the fresh migration and tell the plugin that I want to replace this site's database with the remote database and paste my code. What you can see here is that the plugin understands which is the source URL or domain and which one is the domain we are migrating to. And the same is true for the root path of our project. For this demo, I don't want to migrate all the tables because in the background I already did it and I don't want to wait. So I'm just selecting one of them so that you can see what will happen. And I'm telling it to migrate all media files and the theme files I need. The same with my plugin files. In this case, I'm again only choosing a few of them to speed things up. Last but not least, you have the option to save your migration profile, which comes quite handy when you're working with a live and a dev environment and want to migrate frequently. And then you simply click pull and save. And we now have the opportunity, resume, I did on pause, to watch the plugin do our work or to get a coffee. As you can see, it's quite speedy now because we only migrated so little data. But I think it's understandable what it does and why it's so easy and relaxing to use it. While we are waiting, I switch back to my presentation and talk about a few tips I have for you. Where's my presentation? There it is. Of course, not everything runs as smoothly as we want it. So there are a few problems which crop up frequently. One of them is that migrating multi-sites isn't as easy as one would hope. For example, you can export single sites out of a multi-site or import single sites into a multi-site. But it's not possible yet to pull or push directly from multi-site to multi-site. Which means if you want to migrate a subsite of a multi-site installation to, for example, the production server, you have to move it first to a third host, which acts as intermediary and as a single site, and then pull it from there to your live multi-site installation. It's a bit complicated, and I hope the developers will find a solution for this problem. From time to time, there are errors during migration, mostly due to timeouts on the server when one of the sites is on a slow hosting. Then you get timeouts from time to time. My tip for this case is try to pull media, theme files, plugins separately. It's absolutely no hassle. You just have to click the button a few times more. When you're still having issues, try pulling tables and plugins in chunks. Don't pull all of them, but the first three and then again the next until you're done, especially on very large sites with many big plugins. This can help a lot. Another thing we frequently do is if you don't have an SSL certificate on your local work environment, it saves a lot of time if you replace the HTTPS for HTTP directly during migration. You can do it by simply adding another replacement line and replacing your domain with HTTPS with HTTP as last line, and then you're good to go. Let's have another look at our migration. Yeah, I think I lost the Zoom window. Okay. Ah, now there it is. And we're back to our migration. It finished by now. And we didn't have any errors. We have another option on the start screen of the plugin, the one we created with this migration. And the last thing I have to do on most websites is to either change the prefix of the database tables if they are different, and in some cases to clear caches and then have a look at my site if everything runs normal and smoothly. Thank you for your attention, and if you have questions, please feel free to ask in the F&A or Q&A, depending on your language. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the discussion.